without further ado, I want to go ahead and introduce our final presenter of the day. We have Ari Sowers presenting Studymate. Ari, are you with us?
I am. Can you hear me okay? I'm just going to wave and say hi on video, and then I'll turn that off.
Yep, we can hear you loud and clear, and feel free to share
Great.
your screen or do whatever you need to do.
Great, thank you. So thanks everyone for having me today. I think I saw Allison Regassa also on the session with us, and she is also one of the contacts for you at Respondus. She's an account manager here, but I'm one of our trainers. And so my job is to help teachers and institutions use our applications. So we're going to do a 10-12 minute quick overview of Studymate Campus, which is an application that Modesto City Schools licenses from Respondus. It's built into Schoology. If you can't see my screen, please say so, because sometimes I'm not sure what I'm sharing. But Studymate Campus is an application that helps you create flashcards, self-assessments, and learning games that both teachers and students can create. One of the unique things about Studymate Campus is that it allows students to create their own content, but in sort of a contained environment, not an app that they go and use on their own that might have ads and a registration and all these things. It's a tool right in the Schoology course. That also makes it really easy for teachers and students alike to share activities. And when teachers share content with students, they have visibility into how much students are using the activities, which is really key for things like participation grade, encouraging comprehension, and things like that. So I'm actually going to pop into Studymate and show you just really quickly what it looks like to use as a student. So let me make sure that I'm doing this right. If I can switch to a course and make sure that you can see. There we go. Sorry, to switch the window. Let me log out as an instructor and log in here as a student. I've got a bunch of different accounts here to show you. Students would simply open the course and find the Studymate tab, which is going to be one of the apps or third-party applications in their courses. When students or teachers open Studymate for the first time, there's a series of screens here that gives you how the application works, what the activities look like, so students can kind of scroll through and see samples of those. There are these great, really short video tutorials that'll cover more than what we have time to cover today. And there's only a couple for students. There are more for teachers. Teachers have a few more features than students do. And then students can also use Studymate on mobile devices. So if they want to take their activities with them, they don't have to log into Schoology to do that. It's a separate app that, right sizes and makes the activities work well on iOS, Android devices. They just need to set it up once to follow the instructions here. But inside the actual Studymate application, when the student first starts, they're not going to have a bunch of content here. They'll just have this one sample project at the top of the list. So the way Studymate is organized is it doesn't matter what course you're in. Students have their own area in Studymate, kind of like a journal they could access from anywhere, but the content is the same no matter where they where they start. So this would be a list of projects across all the topics that I might be studying, all the classes I'm in. But no matter where they come from, they always start with this sample project that gives them a way of looking at the activities before they have to create anything. And this is true for teachers as well. To look at the activities from here, they simply click a study button. That's it. Every Studymate project, which you can think of as a collection of content, right? It might be a vocabulary list, it might be practice quiz questions, has its own unique URL, kind of like a YouTube video. So we'll see that a few times. But this is sort of the landing page, if you will, for a Studymate project that shows you what activities are available, a little summary about what's here, and then you can play or study. So this is a very typical activity, a flashcard. You've got your definition on one side, your term on the other. You can scroll through those, make sure we get them all right. Maybe I want to study that vocabulary in a different way. Obviously students have different learning styles. So instead of your very plain and simple flashcards, I want to pick a letter, which is kind of like Hangman, and I can guess the letters until I get it right. There's also a matching game. crossword puzzles, a straight list of glossary terms. And for multiple choice format questions, you can also do self-quizzes and play a challenge game, which looks a little bit like a very popular trivia game show. So students have the ability to use the same content in different ways and really learn and understand the material. So that's what a StudyMate project looks like. And that's how a student would get to it from within the application that's in Schoology. But they can do more than this. Let's say you got a couple students who are working together and they want to create projects, and they're each going to divide up, let's say, a section of the book, take a couple chapters and create vocabulary lists, and then share with each other like in a study group. Creating a project is as simple as giving it a name and a description. I've already created a blank one right here. Adding items to a StudyMate project, you simply click the edit button. And there are 3 very simple, easy to use templates that correspond to the different activities. So fact is a template that just has a space for text. You just want to make a statement or a simple fact. You can add images to activities wherever you see a little camera icon here. Definitions, probably pretty self-explanatory. It's a term and definition format. I'm going to use this sample just to show you creating one. And the StudyMate will prompt the student for which activities this is going to create. The key here is I am writing or typing or copying in this term and definition once. And when I save it, I get multiple different activities from it. Not just, I don't have to create a flashcard and then create the pick a letter game. I enter this once and I get all the activities that match this template, and they're listed here. And questions is multiple or single answer choice questions. So great for practicing test questions. Again, images are here. It's very simple to add content here. Students can type these in one at a time. There's also an import feature. I won't talk about that in too much detail, but it's really straightforward. The instructions are actually built in. So if you have a vocabulary list as an example in a Word document, very easy to bring that in. And again, both students and teachers can do all of these things. And then notice there's that unique web address, that URL up at the top. This would be where the student would ultimately study this vocabulary list that we're creating here. Once I've entered more than one, right? I only have one activity right now or one item. But going back to that idea of the study group, if a student creates their own StudyMate project and they want to share it with their fellow students, they can use the share feature. This allows them to either grab that URL and send it to their friends, or send an email to a couple of students together, and they all each get that project on the receiving end. Now, when they get a project that somebody else created, they can't edit it. They can study it, but they can't change it. What they can do too, though, is follow it. So let's say my friend sent me a project. I simply put that web address here. And when you follow a project in StudyMate, this little icon shows up next to it. So this one is followed from my friend Anne, which means I can study this project, but I can't edit it. If I want to make it my own, there's a duplicate and edit feature, so I can then take the content that Anne created with me as part of my study group and then make changes to it. Maybe I want to enhance it or add a few items to it. Now, obviously, I could go on. There's a lot more that students can do here. You might even be noticing these little icons at the bottom. You can add other things to a StudyMate project that aren't just the activities you can create in StudyMate. This is a YouTube video. Simply use the follow and enter a different type of URL. So there's examples here that are links out to YouTube. I think this is a Khan Academy project. This is a Quizlet. Yeah, we work with competitors. But there's ways that students can kind of save things they want to use to study all in one place. So that's the student's perspective. And I know that was really quick, but students can do everything the student can do, the instructor can also do. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit and talk about the things that teachers can do with StudyMate, in addition to what we saw that students can do. So teachers can create those activities, just like I said. They can create projects. They can add those links in a collection of content together within StudyMate. They can share the same way you just saw me share that link or email it to a couple of people. They can also follow other people's projects. If you want to get, sometimes teachers collaborate on things, maybe everyone in the same curriculum area or grade level. So they can do all the things I just described that students could do, but they can do more. So let me go back into that Schoology course, and I'm going to log in this time as a teacher. So just give me 1 second to log out and log back in again, and then I will share my screen again. Okay, so this time I'm here as a teacher. I also have that Studymate project or application. Same opening screens, again, a couple more videos on that video tutorials page because I have some features that students don't have. When I go into the Studymate application, it looks very similar because it is. It's the same list of different projects. I've got a few that I followed, a few that I created myself. You can also even organize projects into folders, which is nice if you have a couple of projects you've broken down into subcategories and then you want to keep them all together. But the one most powerful thing that I think, or that teachers will often tell us that you can do with Studymate is tracking students' use of projects that you might create for them. So there's a feature in this drop-down list called, let me turn this off and then turn it back on, make available in the course. When I do this for this particular project, it's going to put a link at the top of everyone's Studymate application in this course, right? That has a link out to the project that I created. So as a teacher, I created some, vocabulary words here I want my students to learn. Now, when students use the link here at the top of the course, what teachers are getting is tracking of the students' use of those activities. And I've got to go back to a quick screenshot to show you what I mean by that, because I don't have any real students in my course. What I mean by that is that when you have students working in that activity, if I were to go to the student usage tab, or there's also a menu item called student usage, I would see the overall statistics for this project, and then student by student, how many times did they visit this project that's full of vocabulary words, and how many different activities did they view? And this is a great way of making sure that students are engaging with the material you want them to. None of this is graded, by the way. This is all about learning activities and self-assessment. But what will happen here a lot of times is teachers will say, well, I know this student is struggling to understand the material, and I see that they have 0 visits and 0 activities viewed. Maybe I need to give more of an incentive to use Studymate. Maybe I just need to reach out and say, I see you haven't studied the vocabulary yet. You probably should do that, or you're going to have trouble when it comes to either an exam or comprehension or moving on. So it's a way of making sure students are engaged with the material. So that's a really quick overview of how Studymate works. I'd like to share a little example we call Studymate in action, sort of a use case for one way that I thought was really powerful, especially in larger schools and across districts that Studymate campus is often used among teachers and then with students. Imagine, if you will, as a teacher, you've got, I keep using vocabulary lists and glossary just because it's very simple. It could be practice quiz questions. It could be a lot of different things, but we'll use a glossary of terms as an example. I've got a Word document with hundreds of vocabulary words that over the course of the year I want students to learn. I'm going to import those into Studymate. It's very easy to format the glossary and then bring it into Studymate, and it immediately creates multiple different activities for those vocabulary terms and definitions. Then what I'm going to do, once I create that project, I'm going to take that unique URL for my Studymate project that has hundreds of words in it, and I'm going to share it with my fellow teachers who are teaching the same subject or the same grade level. Those teachers are able to follow that project, like I showed you. I followed my project from my friend Anne, in their own Studymate projects in their own courses. Now that means even though they didn't create the project, all of those other teachers can make those projects available to their students and see their own students' activity. So again, the example of students in a study group dividing and conquering, each taking a chapter and creating vocabulary words, that also works for teachers to collaborate. And I thought that was a really powerful example of one of the ways that StudyMate can save a lot of time, give teachers robust activities for students to learn from, and make the learning course material really engaging and fun, because these are learning activities, they're games. So that's another thing that some teachers do is, if you break down the chapters in a book or the sections of the content into folders, folders can be shared as single web addresses, single URLs with multiple projects contained in them. So possibilities are endless with being able to organize and sort all these StudyMate activities. So a couple things we always recommend too for institutions that are like getting started with StudyMate, college schools and districts and colleges and universities use it too. As first is what we're doing now is letting you all know that StudyMate is available right within your Schoology courses. Once that integration is set up, both students and teachers can use it either independently or together. In fact, we often hear that students will find the StudyMate app and use it themselves because they just want to create their own, foreign language vocabulary lists, or maybe they're struggling in science and they'll stumble on it and start using it. And sometimes that even creates interest among their fellow students and it works its way up to the teachers. We talk about Schoology and teacher training. StudyMate in Schoology teacher training is just another application that you have at your fingertips that's integrated seamlessly with your online courses and that's easy to use. And then sometimes it's something that schools will share with students on the first day of classes in some kind of orientation or overview of their online tools, because students do create their own projects and they really love that the mobile app can be used outside of the Schoology environment. They can sync it with those courses and they can even study with those learning activities offline. If you got students that are worried about their data or their Wi-Fi, they don't need to have either of those things. Once they've set up and synced the StudyMate mobile app, they can still study even if they're not, online on the internet. All right. So I'm putting up on the screen the email address for our training team. There are several of us here who are more than happy to answer any questions if you think of them after today. That's also the website for the StudyMate application on respondus.com. So if you have questions that might be answered that way, those video tutorials are also on our website, but they're in the application itself. So the best place to start is really within Schoology. So with that, I guess I'll see if there's any questions. I think we've hit my time limit.
Perfect. Thank you, Ari. I didn't see any questions in the chat. I think that was a great summary of what StudyMate does and how students can use it pretty quickly and easily.
All right. Well, thanks for having us, everyone.